The life you want isn't hiding under another strategy. It's waiting inside the version of you who already believes it's possible. Hi, and welcome to the You World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches, and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are speaking with Jim Fortin. Jim is a transformation strategist and subconscious reprogramming expert who helps people break free from the invisible limits shaping their lives, blending insights from NLP, hypnosis, and neuroplasticity. He guides clients to shift their identity at the deepest level so success stops feeling like an uphill battle. With a proven approach that goes beyond willpower and motivation, Jim teaches how to rewire your beliefs, habits, and stories that keep you stuck and step into the self-image that naturally attracts the results you desire. Welcome to the show, Jim. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to assisting people who are listening, helping them literally just discover more about themselves so they can be, do, and have more in life.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So let me ask you the big question, and then we will
Sure.
get rolling here. So, what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Kind of a twofold answer. One, 100% applies to your podcast is self-evolution, evolve. The planet, consciousness, the universe is in the process of evolving and shifting right now. And this is happening universal wide. And what many of us do, we live from our old frames, our old structures about who and what we think we are and what the world is. That world, if you look out your window right now and around the world, all the way from Washington, D.C. to Toronto to Sydney to Milan, that old human structure is collapsing. So the most important thing we can do is evolve ourselves and better come to know ourselves, in my
I
opinion.
lo- I love that. I love that. I think you're right on track. It's a matter of we're all co-creating the reality that we're getting to experience. And the more of us that can come together and really put the world into a place, or the reality that we're experiencing into a place, pulling out from consciousness the things that we wish to have in our lives or to experience, the more consciousness gets to experience novelty, which is ultimately, I think, what it's all about. It's the experience that we're going through.
That's all it
And
is. Life is a roller coaster. That's what I tell people. It's a roller coaster, metaphorically. You agreed to incarnate. You're on the roller coaster, and then everyone gets on it, and then most people are like, "I don't like this ride." Well, you agreed to the ride, and the ride's going to go up, and it's going to go down, and it's going to go fast, and it's going to go slow, and it's going to be enjoyable, and it's going to scare you, but you're on the ride. So why not enjoy the ride and evolve and grow as much as you can?
yeah, I was talking with a friend of mine who was mentioning that we all agree to certain things before we come here.
Hmm.
And some of those things, and this may be a trigger for some people because I think good and evil exists, and they're not good or bad. They just exist.
They
And
balance. That you can't have the good without the evil, or you can't have the light without the dark. They
yeah,
must balance the yin and the yang. Please continue.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you want to just have all good in your life, it it can't exist. It just
Yeah.
it becomes boring, and then by definition it becomes bad.
Yeah.
You just, and nothing ever exists forever in one state. It's
Yeah.
constantly changing.
That's the one thing that people miss. We tend to take our life and put it only in the context of the current moment. So here's where I am, and I live in Idaho, and this is my home, and this is my partner, and this is my dog, and this are my kids. And I like the way that I've lived before, is what a lot of us do. But the truth is, the what we're seeing happening in the world right now is an evolution of consciousness. The entire human experience is changing. We're seeing that physiologically or physically on the planet with The magnetic poles on the magnetic poles are shifting. The core of the Earth is now spinning counterclockwise. The Schulman resonance, different things that are happening on the planet energetically. And then people don't recognize we're bioelectromagnetic beings, and being as we're magnetized to the planet, when the planet shifts, it's going to affect us. Then look at culture and society and economics. It's all collapsing around us. Why? New world is coming. And it's going to be a little messy till it gets there. And depending on how we manage that, but a new world is coming for humanity.
I'm so excited.
I agree. I'm excited about it. And part of me also is, why does it have to be so hard sometimes? So many people make it so hard for themselves. And when they make it hard for themselves, they go out on the world because they're in fear and they make it harder for a lot of people as well. This is what I heard in marketing one time. A guy was saying people aren't going to stop until they get to the bottom of what's called your funnel. And it's going to be like a greased chute. Once you start, you're going to finish at the bottom. You can't stop. Well, what we're in, no one can stop, but a lot of people, especially a political movement in the US, is trying to stop the evolution of consciousness. It ain't going to happen that way. Nations aren't going to exist the way they have. Socioeconomics, social structures are not going to stay that same way. But many people are fighting to take it back 20 years ago because that's the way that they knew it when change is going to happen, whether you like it or not.
I I'm an older person, and I have my father's still alive, and he's very he's got all his marbles. He's like
Hmm.
pushing 90, but
Wow, good.
he's a person who's from the generation of the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah,
And there was a definite idea of how the world was supposed to be and what was supposed to be right and wrong. And those people, there's still a group of them. They're in their 70s and 80s primarily, and a
yeah,
few in their 90s. But those people are still politically active in the
yeah,
world right now. And as those people leave power, I'm hoping that younger people, and I'm talking about people in their 30s and 40s, will start showing up, because those are the people who really embrace the world as it is now. There are groups of older people, and I'm not painting with a big brush,
sure.
but there are groups of people, and they're not to disparage you, but they're
Sure.
primarily older white males who are used to, they talk about male privilege.
Yeah.
I didn't used to think that that was a thing,
Oh, it's a
and
thing.
it is a thing.
Yeah,
And um and they used it to manipulate people, and they're still trying to do that, but
yeah,
more and more people are just saying, no, we're not putting up with it. And you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but I'm just not believing you, because you've lied to me so many times that pretty much, if I hear it on the news or if I hear it from a trusted source, I automatically think, nah, that's probably not the story.
yeah.
Just my knee-jerk reaction.
I see all that, and even though I'm a white male, I am not in that camp that thinks the world
I
works that way. But
yeah.
see, here's the thing. I think many people listening, we've always known we were different from a very early age.
Mhm,
When I was 15, I was already reading the Rosicrucians, and
mhm.
sacred wisdom and all that. And when I was in college, my fraternity would go out and play beer ball in the park every Friday. And I go, guys, I'll be out there in a bit. I need to meditate first. And, so it's always been a part of me. My brother-in-law is my sister's husband is a real shaman, like you would find in the Amazon.
Yep.
My family has been inside Teotihuacan for 2 nights, Cheops for 2 nights, Machu Picchu for 2 nights, Haleakala, Uluru. We've been at power spots on the planet during the spring equinoxes. My brother-in-law I've apprenticed with for 32 years. He told me several years ago that up until about 1965, things shifted around 1965. And in 1965-ish, that's when the indigos started coming. You probably have heard the phrase indigo, the indigo kids. The indigos started coming. And then in 1980, that shifted to from the indigos to what started showing up on the planet in the 1980s was the crystalline, and they're higher functioning, higher frequency beings that are evolving on the planet. This is why we see, and this will rub a lot of people the wrong way, but I'm going to tell you what he said. This is why we see an explosion of people on the spectrum and autism after about 1980. He said these kids are coming at higher frequencies. The example he gave me was, for example, me, he's 74 now. He goes, people that are of that generation, if they're spiritually evolving, that is by conscious choice. People that are the indigos, they just feel called to do something. People that are the crystallines are seeing more clearly. But where I was going that might upset some people, he said the explosion of autism in the spectrum is because these kids are coming at a much higher frequency and they can't handle the physicality of the old way. This is why they're sensitive to noise and light and sound and touch, is that they're vibrating frequency wise at a much higher level. But then we're trying to treat them with our old ways, and it doesn't work that way. And we're trying to pull an evolutionary being backwards. And the final comment was where I was going, and I lost track there. Let's say, I use Apple now, but let's say we're on Windows. We've gone through Windows 6, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 9, and whatever they're on now. These kids are coming at like Windows 15, and most people are back at Windows 10 trying to pull these kids backwards, and it's not serving anyone, and it's not serving the evolution of the planet.
You can see that with young kids. It's
I
like
get it.
they talk about sending kids to school, and I'm like, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard.
They get
School
it.
is so useless at this point. We need to be
Yeah.
teaching kids, how to commune with earth, how to actually grow your own food. You know,
Yeah.
the things that you need to survive as a human being. We are also beings that exist on in a realm that requires nutrition, and we're depending on people to give us stuff. That's dangerous to me. But instead of like herding all of these unique individuals into a little container called a classroom with one person who's supposed to be an authority who is arguably
Yeah.
clueless about
Yeah. I'm
the
with
way
you.
the world works, to try to train these beings, it's like just let them play. You can
Yeah.
learn everything you know in 2 years, need to know in 2 years.
The challenge with the world right now, in my opinion and observation, is my brother-in-law, the shaman, and I have talked about this, is he goes, these kids come so gifted, but they
Mhm.
take it for granted because they're so gifted that they won't work to evolve and develop other skills. And so they many times they throw away their spiritual gifts. About 3 weeks ago, I was hanging out with some college friends. We've been on a school now for 40 years thereabout. And three of my friends are PhD college professors, two at the University of Texas and one at Marquette. And they
Mhm.
were saying, as we were sitting outside on the deck one night, we were at a beach house, they were saying that they can't teach their curriculum anymore because the kids don't know how to learn. And I speculated because I do this for a living, but I'm like, I'm like, guys, what do you think caused this? And they all three said technology and social media. Kids cannot connect and think anymore. They don't know how to communicate because technology does it all for them. So what I'm looking at is the dualism here. They're evolving. They're coming to the planet at a much higher evolutionary level, but they're sucked backwards by the technology and the hijacking of the brain with social media.
It's an interesting perspective, but I think schools feed into that in that
Sure,
they promote the technological aspects. A lot of
sure,
kids go to school and they're just put in front of a computer. I mean,
because they don't
why
know.
bother?
These teachers. That's interesting. I never thought until just now that word. These teachers, they really aren't teachers. They're facilitators of a dogma given by a culture to here's what our curriculum is. And right
Yes.
now, you see that, and this is not, I'm not political, even though I worked at
I'm
the
not
Carter
either.
Presidential Center, but that's humanitarian many years ago. We see. political institutions now trying to dogmatize all American institutions. Education has to teach America is the best and America is this and this is all
It's just
covert. People don't see
it's
this, but
propaganda.
also what's promoted right now is that white people are better than other people and rich people are better than poor people. And this is all being promoted, even hidden and covertly from, let's just say, the political powers that be.
Yeah. It's done through school systems. And if you take your kids
Yeah,
out, they'll
yeah.
be fine.
And then you're
I
penalized, or if you don't get vaccinated, you're penalized because that's what culture says you have to do. And now they're taking that apart. Yeah, so where I seek to live from is be in this world, but not of this world. I don't care what anyone thinks. I know for a fact, because I've had a near-death experience, I am not from this world. I am temporarily stopped over living my time, a very short time. I'm 60. Even if I left at 90, that's still a very short time. I'm here to contribute, I'm here to learn, I'm here to evolve, and then I'm going to my next journey. But so many people get trapped in the identity, which you used earlier, the identity of, oh, I'm a human being, and I'm going to actually wrap myself in all the trappings of what it means to be a very limited human being. That's a very faulty strategy from my perspective.
yep. It
Mhm.
just causes you to create stories about things that don't really matter. And you're free to make up any story you want about your past that you want to. I give you permission.
Yeah, but society is indoctrinated by media at this point. Even look at the adults. You've got a left and you've got a right, and algorithms only show you what you look at, and then people get indoctrinated by that. We've got the greatest division. I find it really interesting. I heard many years ago a phrase by somebody that I knew a lot of years ago. He's not on the planet, named Wayne Dyer. And Wayne said a tree never sets fire to the others, like branches don't set fire to the branches on the other side because it's all one. So right now we've got lighter fluid on both sides setting fire to the branches, not recognizing we're all part of that one tree. And you'd ask about what's the most important thing. It's that when I said evolution or evolution of self, it's the awareness that we are all part of the same human experience and experiment. We are all part of this and we are here to serve, not to tear each other down.
Yeah, that's that's my philosophy too. So I know you coach people.
Mhm.
And how does that look? Are you doing it as in groups, one-on-one? Do you write books? I know you have a podcast. Do you want to tell us about your podcast also?
Yeah, it's called Transform Your Life from the Inside Out. It's in the top 1/10 of 1% of podcasts in the world. I'm ranked number 4 in Australia for education. I'm ranked in top 50 in the rest of the world for education and personal development. It's all about evolving your life from the inside out because everything starts on the inside, the way that you be. I've done one-to-one coaching for many years. I don't do that anymore. I do group coaching with a program called the Transformational Coaching Program. It's a 13-week immersion program with me of both ancient wisdom, brain science, psychology, and I merge and marry all these things together to help people better understand who and what they are at a deeper core subconscious level so they can change their lives. The group we find I've had as many as 1,000 people at a time in group coaching with me. Right now, our programs are a little smaller, maybe 400 people in the 13-week program with me. I coach in there daily. And the reason that group works so well is because we all crave community. We all crave like-minded people that are evolving. But here's the thing, when you heal and people see something that you healed, it then shows them they can heal themselves, whether it be depression or anxiety or fears or money or whatever it is. Excuse me, we demonstrate the concept of social learning. We learn from each other, which is literally how we're hardwired to learn.
Mhm. And it allows us to be in community too. And
That's vital.
we're
That's vital.
designed to be in community. You were talking about tech earlier, and tech just like most people just like they're interacting with digits, not other beings. And
I've had 3 employee. I've had as many as 15 employees at a time on the team. Excuse me,
Mhm.
team members. I prefer that word. But last year I hired 3 young, very, very, very tech savvy, 23 to 25 year olds.
Mhm.
All three demonstrated an extreme ability to or inability to connect with other people. They were great at the digital world, but they had no resources in terms of human connection. And my director of operations said they've got the hard skills, but they don't have the soft skills because they've never had to connect with people. And I asked all three guys, I'm like, what do you do in your free time? All three said, I stay at home, I work on my computer, I play games, or I spend time with my girlfriend. That was it. That was it. And I'm like, well, what about friends and going out and camping and all? They didn't get it. It was so alien to them. And that's the current generation. And why is this happening? It's just part of the evolutionary process and plan. As far as why, I don't know, but I know it's part of the bigger evolution of all of us.
I have children in their 20s, and I've seen I have kids from 40 to 21. So I have a broad range of them.
But you're a
And
different
it's
mother, though, too, than most parents. So you probably have raised your kids differently in terms of their experience with you in early life, which has affected who they are now. When this early one is 21, this one is 21. It's probably different than a lot of other 21-year-olds. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, you're totally right. But I've also seen the people around her, and when I
Yeah.
bash schools, I'm really bad about that. But I educated my children at home,
Yeah.
and then I stuck them in a an alternative school for 2.5 years when they were 13. So they all
Mhm.
graduated at 16. The youngest
Wow.
was 15 and a half when she graduated, getting straight A's. But they have that little piece of paper that said, I have a diploma, which is so important in the world for no apparent reason. Um, sorry, Mike.
That's fine. Unless I tell people this, when we went to school, I'm 60, that was what you did because you had to do that to get a better life. A lot of companies wouldn't even interview you unless you had a
Oh yeah.
college degree. It's a
I'm
different world now.
65. It's like I totally get what
Same,
you're talking about.
same world. And the world now, if I had kids at that age now and they said, Dad, should I go to school? I would say, well, number one, what lights you up? What turns you on? What brings you alive? Now, do you need school? Do you need trade school? Do you need formal education? Do you need like the school of life? What do you need? Because that old model now, which is also broken, go to school and dad could pay for it because I have the wherewithal, but many kids are graduating $200,000 in debt for a $40,000 a year job. Do you not see a racket happening here when I had made millions online? I've got many friends, students of mine, they're in their 20s making millions a year, never went to college. It's
Yeah.
obsolete to a large degree unless you're an engineer, lawyer, or brain surgeon or a doctor. Otherwise, for business and all this philosophy and history, go to the world. You can learn that stuff like that out in the world. We're on the same
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Very much same page.
So I know that you offer people the 9-day challenge,
Yeah.
about what it means to be at a soulful level unstuck.
Yeah.
Can you talk a
I
little bit
created
about
that
that?
probably 4 years ago, basically as just, challenges are kind of a big deal online. And the average challenge is about 4 days. That one's 9 days, and I charged 97 bucks for it when I was putting it out. We can track all of our metrics because everything's traceable through technology. We had a 93% finish rate at the end of 9 days, which is extraordinary. So what we're doing now is basically I just give it away, but I don't just give it away randomly. It's not on my website. So for people that have been with you and are listening right now, I like to give things away. I want to get people that 9-day challenge, no charge. Like I said, it was $97. And the whole foundation of that challenge, even though we call it getting unstuck, because most people are stuck, they're stuck because they don't know who and what they are at a soulful level. The premise in that training, the challenge is be to have. How do you have to be so you can do what you need to do to have what you want? But the deeper premise is what does it even mean to be? Because most human beings are not first human beings, they're first human doings. That's what they learn to do. When we forget that we are beings, what does it mean to be? Because being is the foundation of all creation, and we have to understand and discover ourselves at a being level. And for people that want that, you can go to jimfortin.com, jimfortin.com/heart, HART, jimfortin.com/heart.
My mistake. I was looking for the E in there.
Nope.
No E. It's
No,
just
wait. Yeah.
HART.
Yeah. Got
All
it.
right, we'll make sure we tell people.
Wait, my team gave it to me. Is it HAR? It's HART,
It is
correct?
HART.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought because I did research on you and I wanted to learn
I
about
was
you. Like
in
what you
my
do.
mind, I was thinking that you were talking about heart, like
HEART.
yeah. And I wrote it down so that I would be sure to put it on the show notes.
You know your name
I
is Hart, right?
yes.
I'm kidding.
For
Yeah,
those
no, it's
moments
your last name.
when you get something you're totally not expecting. I think that kind of summarizes this whole podcast interview.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. Listeners don't know this, but we had we had to rework some things before we started. But as I said to you, everything happens for whatever reasons it needs to happen. And people apologize to me a lot. I'm sorry that happened. Hey, it is what it is. And what am I to learn from what happened or what's being orchestrated behind the scenes that I can't see and it needed to happen that way? I'm good with it all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It just life is an adventure and we're just gonna experience it. And you can choose to be upset about things or you can just embrace them and say, well, that will be memorable.
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of Aleister Crowley, and I know our time is limited, but he's an occultist from the 1800s.
Mhm.
And he said one line one time that's always stuck with me. Humans were not put on the planet to be beasts of burden. Most humans live here, though, as beasts of burden. Let me work. Let me do everything physically. Forget about my mind because we don't learn about that. Forget about my energy. Forget about my frequency. Forget about my vibration. I just have to physically do things. And when I physically do things to make my money or create my life, now I'm a beast of burden. And most people spend their entire life being a beast of burden as opposed to enjoying the roller coaster and the ride and the evolution of self.
It's never too late to start a new chapter. And
I,
just
I,
because you were one way last week doesn't mean you have to be that way today.
I've got so many stories, and again, I know we're on the clock. I was watching
You're good.
something from Jane Fonda, and she said that she's what, 86 now? But about
Mhm.
10 years ago, she said, I see life in three stages, my early stage, my middle stage, and my final stage. She goes, how am I going to live my final stage? I'm 60. What I'm looking at is I'm not going to be on this planet forever, thankfully. And I mean, I'm not looking forward to leave tomorrow, but I know I'm going to leave, and I'm fine with that because I was somewhere before I got here. But what I look at is how do I want to live and how do I want to be in my final stage and what mark do I want to leave on the world?
I love that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really so important. We all have a mark to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And my tagline is get visible. It's because everybody, you're here for a purpose. You're an integral part of the whole that is us.
Yeah.
Everybody matters. Even the people that you don't like, they do matter and you are connected to them and they're
Yeah.
here for a reason. And I we were talking about white male privilege earlier. They're still connected to you.
Yeah.
They are you. We're not we're not disconnected. Yes, maybe the way reality is formed around the way that situations have evolved and made it so that the spotlight was shown in that direction for a while, but this it's shifting and
Yeah.
it's an ebb and a flow life. It is not a standing in the middle of the stream as a rock.
I was watching some YouTube last night. There were two young guys, probably 22, 23, 24
Mhm.
years old. They were watching 1970s TV and then commenting on it. And they were watching something I'm sure you've seen, All in the Family with Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
And they were playing snippets of the episode, all the racism and the white privilege and the Christianity. And these two young guys are like, oh my God, they could say that on TV back then. And a lot of Archie bunkers still exist in a lot of the tribe that's following the current administration. To your point, where I work from, I don't hate on them. I mean, I'm more about evolution. Let's all grow together. Let's high
Yep.
tide raises all ships. But what I look at is they give me the opportunity to learn to be more loving, more compassionate, more accepting, more understanding. The yin and the yang, the dark and the light. I'm not saying I'm the light. I'm not saying I'm the dark. I'm a part of the component. And the other part of the component is helping me evolve and grow. So I value. And a final comment, and I'll be quiet. But in Thailand, the monks, they don't actually wash their potatoes. They put them in a big vat and they stir the vat. And what happens is the friction of the potatoes washes the dirt off the potatoes. We are all on the planet in a big vat. Our job is to wash the dirt through the friction off from each other so we all become clean.
Like that.
Mm.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jim. This is
Thank you,
an
Jill.
amazing conversation.
Thank you. I really enjoyed visiting with you, and I'm here if I can be of service in any way. And thank everyone for listening as well. Let's go out. I tell people this: the world needs us. The world is in change and transition. The more we grow, the more we evolve, the more we can help ourselves, our friends, our family, our community, and the world. So let's all evolve.
To learn more about Jim and to schedule a consult with him or access his challenge, please go to jimfortin.com/heart, HART. And I'll be sure to put that link in the show notes below. And I want to thank you all for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission and offer a variety of ways to do this leveraging Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.